Hi, this is Sarah with Posh Pooch Designs, and we're back in the kitchen again because we're going to be doing a project that combines a little bit of crochet and a little bit of polymer clay. And these are both beginner projects, perfect if you are a beginner crocheter or a beginner worker with polymer clay. Not sure if that's how you say it, but if you're wanting to learn both, this is a great beginning project. What we're going to be doing is making key rings. We're going to crochet, add some fringe, and then add some polymer clay beads that we're going to make on the bottom. What you're going to need to make these is a little bit of cotton yarn, and I'm going to be using this sugar and cream today in yellow. You're going to need an H hook. If I can get that where you can see it. There we go. And then you're going to need a needle for weaving in your ends and a pair of scissors for cutting your yarn. You'll also need some rings like this. These are key rings that you slip onto your keys. You can use any kind. Any of them work fine. You can even use a D-ring if you want to. And then you can also hook a little hook like this one. Now this one is made just on a key ring with the beads. And this one is made on the smaller key ring, and it has a little hook. Perfect for hooking on your luggage, a purse, a backpack, a diaper bag, anything, and it makes a great way to identify what is yours really quickly. And that's what you're going to need to make the key ring. Now, to make the polymer clay, you're going to need some of your just leftover polymer clays. And these are just all leftovers. I put them in a zip bag. And it's a great way to use up those leftover pieces from all your projects. Now the beads that we're going to make are going to look just like this, little round beads with a hole, and you shape them however you want. And I'll show you how to do all this. It's going to be a lot of fun. So you're going to need those. You're going to need some skewers, and these are 11-inch skewers that are made out of bamboo. You buy them in the grocery store. You can get like 50 for 99 cents. And they're used for kebabs on the grill or in the oven. So they're made so they can get hot. I think it's like 375 that these can get that hot. And we won't be baking that hot today. And they're perfect for sliding your beads on and baking them in the oven. You're also going to need something to cut with. And if you don't have a cutter, you can just use a plastic knife. It works just fine. It's just to separate the clay. You're also going to need some parchment paper because if you don't have the skewers, you may have to set your beads down. And if you do, you're going to need to put that parchment paper in your pan. The last thing you're going to need is an oven. Now, you can use your big oven or you can use the small oven. Because I'm just doing a few beads today, I'm going to use my small oven. Either way, you need to preheat your oven to 275 degrees. That is hot as we're going to bake them. And so the skewers will be just fine in there. I use them all the time. And they're also great for poking a hole because they're pointed in the end of our bead. And I'll show you all of that in just a minute. So what we're going to do is first we're going to make our polymer clay beads. Then we're going to make our crochet key ring. And then I'll show you how to add the beads to your key ring. So grab those leftover pieces of polymer clay and we'll get baking. The first thing that you need to do before we start working with our clay is make sure that you've washed your hands with a mild soap and you've dried them really well. We don't want to have any residue on our hands from leftover lotions or anything. And then we need to begin to knead our clay. And if you've had it in a little zip bag, it might be a little bit hard. And so you're going to have to really work it good. The warmth of your hand will soften it up. And you want to really soften it up, get it nice and pliable and easy to roll into a cane. And you can choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many colors that you want in your beads. And see, my green one's a little bit harder, so I'm going to work on that just a little bit. Now remember, you need to preheat your oven to 275 degrees. Wash your hands and dry your hands, and then begin to knead your clay until it's nice and soft. So now my green is really, really nice and soft, and I'm going to roll it out into a cane next to this one. And then I'm going to twist them together. That's pretty. And our goal here is to blend them up, but not to mix them into each other, just so that we have both colors, or however many colors of clay you chose. All right, so now it's nice and soft, and I'm going to start rolling it out into a cane again. Now you can get your measuring tape out or your ruler and measure it if you would like to. I just sort of eyeball it. Now, it's in a nice cane now. You can use your knife or you can use a cutter of some kind and just sort of cut them like this to work with. All right. So now we have our pieces. And we're going to put them in our hand. I always smash them and then roll them in a ball. And there's my bead. Now that was easy, right? So then the next thing I do is you can use your skewer or you can use a toothpick. And this is just to gently make the hole in the bead. You don't want to be too forceful, and I spin it, so I'm spinning my toothpick right through there. Then I'll move and go to the other side where the other hole is and do that again. And that just, it's like getting a starter hole. All right, so now I'm going to put it on my skewer, and I'm going to gently push it through, and I'm turning the skewer with my hand, and I'm just gently putting it through. I want to make sure it stays loose, and then I might roll it a little bit to kind of smooth out any of my fingerprints that were on it. And then I'll gently, I always move them up and down a few times, and then put them about there, because I want to have room for several beads. And that's all you do to make a bead. You take the little piece that you cut, kind of smash it, use your hands to roll it in a ball. Take your toothpick, gently spin it, put it through. Now we're going to do the other side. Alrighty. Put it on the same skewer, and again gently turning, pushing it down, making sure it can move because we got to be able to slide these off. And kind of rolling it a little bit just to make sure my fingerprints are out of it. So there's a couple of beads. I'm going to go ahead and finish these, and you go ahead and work on yours, and then we'll bake them. My beads are now ready to be baked, and I've got them all on my skewer, and I'm going to set them on the pan that goes in my toaster oven. If you don't have any of the skewers, you can do your beads the same. Use your toothpick to make your hole a little bit bigger because we are using yarn. We might be able to get yarn through it. And just set your beads down in the pan like that to bake. All right, now we need to bake our beads at 275 degrees like I said before, and we're going to bake them for 15 minutes. So I'm going to go put my beads in the oven, and then I'll show you how to crochet the keychain portion of your keychain. So we're going to make a key ring or keychain that looks like this one. We're going to put the silver ring. We're going to make this portion all yellow, and then we're going to add the beads. So to begin with, of course, you need your H hook. Let's move these things to the side because we don't need the needle and things just yet. And we're going to begin by making a slip knot. Twist it around your finger, pull that through, and there's your slip knot. Now put your hook through, and we're going to make 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, when you begin, you want to have a little bit of string that's long enough so that you can weave it in with your needle. If it's too short to get on your needle, it makes it a little more difficult. All right, so we have 4 chains, and we're going to begin single crocheting in the second chain from the hook. There's the first chain, here's our second chain. So we're going to place our hook through that second chain and pull up a loop. We're going to yarn over and pull that right through those 2 loops. And we'll do that next 2 chains as well. And this is going to give us a total of 3 single crochets. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to turn our work. And what we're going to be doing is stitching 3 single crochets on each row for 12 rows. 1, 2, 3 single crochets, and then we chain 1. Now the chain 1 is not a stitch, it's just called a turning chain, and it just makes it so that when you turn to the other side of your work, it lays pretty. So let's do another row. Go in the top of the single crochet and single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and chain 1. Turn. 1, 2, 3, and chain 1 and turn. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. And we need to have 12 rows. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to stitch 3 single crochets on each row till I have a total of 12 rows. I have single crocheted 12 rows. Now, if you want the body of your keychain to be longer, you can add as many rows as you want to. I think I'm going to add 1 or 2 more rows just so it can be a little bit longer. 1, 2, 3. Because you see, you can do it however you want. 1, 2. All right, so I added 2 more rows. Let me set this down, grab my scissors. We're going to cut our yarn here, but I want you to leave yourself a nice long piece of yarn, about 18 to 20 inches, because we're going to use this piece of yarn to sew on to our ring. All right, see, it takes very little yarn to make one of these. All right, let's go ahead and tie our yarn off. And now here's our ring. And what we're going to do is we're going to put that yarn tail through that ring. And then we're going to put the end of our keychain through that ring and fold it over. Just like that. Then we're going to take our thread and thread it into our needle. And here's where we pulled it through, wrapped it over our ring, and we're just going to make some stitches to hold that on. We'll just go through stitches and go through the end, making sure that end is going to stay put. Go. And I like to do a couple on the end just so I know it's going to stay on there. And then I'll take my yarn and weave it back through. And I'll go ahead and do a couple on this end. And this just because I don't want it to come off, so I'm going to sew it lots of times. And that's on there nice and snug. So I'm just going to put my needle back through, just like that, and cut that yarn. All right, the next thing we need to do is weave this tail in. So we'll go ahead, thread it on our needle and just weave it in. Just go one way and then turn and come back the other, and that's going to keep our yarn from coming out. And then just clip that off. All right, so there is our keychain. A little bit naked, isn't it? I like it though. All right. Oh, there goes my timer. I better check on those beads. Our beads are all done, but they're very hot, and we need to let them set for about 24 hours before we use them on a project. And so I'm going to set these aside over here on this hot pad. All righty. The next thing that we need to do is we need to make 3 12-inch pieces of yarn to use to put our beads on. Let's see. There we go. We want to make sure we have 3. Now, use your ruler and measure those. I just didn't grab my ruler, but it's okay if they're not exact because we are going to trim the ends of them. All right, now, the next thing we need to do is put them on like this here. So what we'll do is on the end, we'll go through that first chain because that's where we began. We'll take one of our pieces and we'll fold it in half and we'll put that on our hook. We'll pull that through. We got a loop there, and then we'll wrap those tails around there and pull it through. So there's one. Let's do the other 2. So this one is going to go in the next one. And this one goes in the next one. Whoops, I got a little bit splitty on that one. We don't want that to happen. There we go. So now we have the 3 pieces of fringe. And now we need to add the beads. So the best way to add the beads is to do it one piece of yarn at a time. So we're going to put one on our needle, take one of our beads, and just push it through. And we'll set that down, and then we'll do the next one. Because each bead has those 2 pieces of fringe going through it. All right, then we'll go through the bead again. And then we'll take those and tie a knot. And it's up to you where you want that knot, how long you want your beads to hang. And that's how you'll do it. And we'll do the other 2 exactly like that. We got all 3 of the beads on. Looks really good. Of course, yellow is my favorite color. And the last thing we need to do is to trim those ends. And I just take all 3 of them together, cut through them. And of course, if you still don't like it, you can trim it how you want to. And that's how you make the crochet keychain with polymer clay beads. And so I have a hook here, so I can hook this one right onto my gym bag.